As we turn to a potential alt season coming here in late Q4 or potentially even Q1 of 2026, there are four potential altcoins, in my opinion, that could make millions because of where they sit within the market. I think all of them are sitting in a very, very strong position. That is a combination of both high opportunity as well as really low market cap. So I think we could see some really, really impressive moves. I want to talk to you about all four of them, some of my reasoning for why I have picked each of them, and also some of the things that are going on and some comparables within the market that I think really show some very strong potential. So we got a lot to go over today. Let's not waste any more time, and we'll go on ahead and we'll dive into our first one, which is actually Aerodrome Finance. Here you can see Aerodrome Finance trading at just over $1 billion in market cap. For those of you who know how to do math, that means we would need to see a very large market cap for Aerodrome to see any insane returns. Now, I'm not trying to say and insinuate that we're going to be seeing 100x's out of Aerodrome. However, I do think we could potentially be seeing, 5x, maybe, kind of in the worst case scenario, maybe 10x, 20x, potentially even 50x if we start to see values like Uniswap saw in last bull run. And so the biggest reason why I'm so hot on Aerodrome and why I think Aerodrome is going to be a really big winner this cycle is because we are seeing that Base is really making leaps and bounds in terms of user adoption, in terms of just overall positioning in the marketplace. Coinbase is really putting a lot of time and effort into the Base chain, or the Base L2. Here you can see on Base, Aerodrome is just absolutely running things. You can see all four, or I guess four of Aerodrome's 5 pools are in the top 4. And you can see following then 3 by Uniswap, 1 by PancakeSwap, and then another one by Aerodrome. So Aerodrome really, really running things here on Base, really doing quite well. And the really important piece about this is just about 1% of Coinbase's 100 million users have access to DEX trading, and more will be onboarded shortly, because if you haven't heard, Coinbase is essentially almost natively integrating the Base chain into their app. So anybody who is on the Coinbase app is effectively directly plugged into the Base chain. Now, of course, that does not mean that every single person is going to be trading on DEXs, but that does mean a much higher percentage of people are going to be trading on DEXs, particularly if we see an alt season kickoff and people are looking for those next micro cap gems. Aerodrome is going to be the one that stands to gain, at least in my opinion, the most from something like this. So I'm very, very hot and very bullish on what we could see coming from Aerodrome Finance. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention too, if you may have noticed on the price here, you will notice that this is kind of what we'll see similarly from most altcoins, is many of them have not actually returned to their all-time highs, whether it was back in December where we saw kind of a little bit of that mini alt season, whether it was earlier. What you have to decide right now is, where do you think crypto is going, right? I still have belief that, maybe in Q4 of 2024, maybe it's Q1 or Q2 or 2025, excuse me. Maybe it's Q1 or Q2 of 2026. Hard to say for sure, but I still think that the best is yet to come. I think that the path is being laid in front of us, and some of the recent pullbacks and shakiness that we have seen is all just part of the plan. Now, you can see that right exactly here, in the sense that even in the best of times recently, we never even got above 60 on the altcoin season index, and an altcoin season is essentially dictated by something over 75. You will see here back in December, we were well over the altcoin season marker here, peaking up at 88. So it has been 253 days since we have technically seen an altcoin season, and only 41 since we've seen Bitcoin season. So it is not the time for altcoins right now. But if you do think towards the end of the year, or maybe even the beginning of next year, we will see an altcoin run, it could very much be worthwhile to start positioning right now. And that's going to lead me into my second coin, which is Simple AI. Simple AI is a super tiny coin, as you can tell. It's fully diluted, so there's no unlocks, no dilution coming here, which is great to see. It's only 2.4 million. Now, of course, those of you who don't understand how market caps work, the fact that this is so small means that it is very, very possible that we do see, this project not work out. It's very, very high risk. However, this also does lead to potentially, and I'm talking a much more realistic possibility, that we see a 100x out of something like this. And I have exactly the thing to show you the proof that this is possible. So for right now, Simple AI, you can see, is essentially trying to make just being in the crypto system a little bit more simple. So you can see here they've got simple GPT, simple trade, simple data, simple robotics, simple protect, and simple create. A lot of this is kind of focused more on developers, helping them kind of make their lives more easier, make it easier to create higher quality projects. And you have a lot of developer tools to make their lives simpler. Now they also do have a little bit of a jump into robotics as well. And so I'm interested to see kind of what kind of traction they can get from the robotics community. But overall, they've seen a lot of really, really strong and really positive feedback from the developer environment. And I do think, from sources that I've heard, they are going to be making a couple kind of retail or like user apps to help make navigating the crypto space a little bit more simple as well, which in my opinion, I think would be a huge thing, particularly if we do see retail jump into crypto. I think that would be massively used. So you can see a kind of market comparable here would be TARS AI. You can see TARS doing something very similar. Simple AI is on Ethereum, TARS is on Solana. This was a grant recipient from the Solana Foundation, but you could see very similar. They've got AI markets. They've got their own kind of like a TGPT. They've got Sona. They've got a whole bunch of different things here that you can kind of check out. And it's very similar-ish, or playing at least in the same field as Simple AI. And we can see that TARS AI actually peaked at a market cap of $229 million. In case you didn't realize, that is a 100x, or very close to a 100x from where Simple AI is sitting. So I do think that something like Simple does have legitimate 100x opportunities from here. Now, of course, this is not financial advice. This is my own opinion. You do need to do your own research and make sure that you understand kind of what you're getting into. There is, of course, always risk. And when you're going into crypto, there's more risk than normal. And when you're going into crypto microcaps, that's about as risky as you can get. So you do need to understand the true risk involved, but of course with great risk does come great rewards potentially. So you'll have to just kind of check that out for yourself and see what you think. The third one that we do have here moving right along is Plume. We can see Plume recently not doing super well on price, but if you look and you understand kind of what they have going on, it's really, really impressive stuff. Sitting right here at just about 190 million in market cap. The fully diluted valuation, though, much larger at about 823 million. So definitely a lot of dilution on the way here for Plume, which is something that you do need to be just a little bit careful of. But that is something to consider here with even all of the dilution. It's still a sub-billion-dollar market cap. I think has a lot of potential upside here. We can see here just today getting listed on Binance, which is the largest crypto exchange in the world. So Plume is essentially now open to the largest crypto exchange in the world, which of course will help expand liquidity and access to a coin like this. Now, in addition, for those of you who have not followed Plume closely, they have a ton of RWA assets already essentially committed to come onto their platform. You can see here Plume, they are the RWA-Fi chain. So they're really focused on real world assets. This is something that we haven't actually seen kick off too heavily within the crypto space yet, but we do see a lot of hype, a lot of interest, and I do think there's a lot of people who hold the belief that RWA at some point will probably see a fairly large level of success, especially given all of the institutions that are coming in. And so I think a quality project like Plume is sitting in a great spot. Ondo, of course, is another great one. The only reason I'm bringing up Plume is because we're talking about the like altcoin major mooners, right? This is a mere fraction of Ondo's market cap. And so that, of course, does leave the upside to be potentially a little bit higher in terms of like percentage return than what we may see out of something like Ondo. Now, of course, there is the risk that it is smaller, so it is more risky, and you do kind of need to make your own decision there. But I do think that Plume is a very interesting one that I, at least personally, am going to be keeping a very close eye on. Now, the last one you'll see here that I wanted to talk about today, and then after we go over this one, we'll kind of discuss why I've picked the ones that I have, because I picked all of them for a very specific reason. And you can see here that Game by Virtuals is the last one that we have going on here. You can see had a massive spike again, kind of back in the December-January timeframe, and then sold off very, very rough into kind of that April low, where we haven't seen price return quite yet, but we have seen some kind of pumps and some dumps and some kind of moving around here. Game by Virtuals is one that I think kind of sits more in the crypto gaming type of niche. If you're not familiar with Game, this is essentially one of the key projects from the Virtuals chain overall. You can see this is the official AI framework of Virtuals.io, which is why I am quite interested in what they're doing and kind of how they're integrating themselves within the Virtuals ecosystem. So far, I have seen that the Virtuals team has made some incredibly intelligent decisions from a tokenomics perspective on how they kind of how they try and make sustainable flywheels in a way that kind of makes sense. And so here with Game, with them being the official AI framework, if somebody spins up a virtual in Virtuals.io, they are essentially kind of by default running on the Game AI framework. Now, of course, you can add in your own AI framework, but by default, you are essentially kind of given the Game AI for your virtual to use. Now, this, of course, is really interesting because I view this as a picks and shovels type of play. It's very similar to something like NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA, of course, is not actually making any AI, but they are providing the framework or essentially the foundation for everybody else to make their AI, right? And so I do think as gaming becomes a little bit more prevalent, as AI agents potentially continue to take over in crypto, as we saw very, very popular towards the end of 2024, I do think Game remains quite well positioned. And if we start to see, they've talked about kind of having like the AI agents within video games as well. That's why it's called Game. I think that's another really interesting opportunity, and Game could, in addition to the AI play, see a really strong move from a crypto gaming rotation as well, which is why I am kind of focused on this one in specific, like specifically over any of the other types of virtuals projects. So anyway, those are the 4 that I have. I find all of them quite interesting and quite intriguing. Actually, moving back to Game, I am just remembering that we did not go over the market cap. So you can see here, market cap of about 25 million. Again, kind of depending on certain market or kind of certain benchmarks that you have. If this thing were to kind of continue to run, we saw an all-time high of about 36 cents, which is about an 18x from here. So we'd need about an 18x just to get back to all-time highs. And then of course from there, if we got to like $1 billion market cap, you could see about a 40x from here. Now, I'm not saying that that is a guarantee. I'm not saying that that is something that is certain to happen, but we have seen AI projects get to $1 billion market caps. Virtuals itself did, I think, close to a $2 billion market cap. AI16Z did $1 billion market cap. So it is definitely possible, and potentially aided by a crypto gaming rotation, this could be a really, really strong mover. So again, another really kind of like high upside type of play. Now, kind of circling back to each of the 4 that I have picked, I've picked them all for a very specific reason, because one, I do think that they are one of the best in class in their region. I think they're maybe a little bit underexposed from a publicity perspective. And I also think that they have major upside relative to the risk. Now, of course, there is risk involved. I'm not trying to say that there's no risk. I'm not even trying to say that there's less risk. There is, of course, massive risk. But I think that the even more massive upside outweighs the risk that we are seeing there. Now, of course, you need to kind of make that own risk calculation on your own. Don't just blindly listen to me. But the reason why I'm picking each of these is because I feel like they sit in a very key niche in several kind of all the niches in crypto. They're each kind of placed in very key strategic ones. First, we have, of course, Aerodrome. This is sitting in more of the DeFi as well as the base niche. I think that there's could be a lot of upside in both. We have seen DeFi coins moving quite well over the past couple months. And so if we see that continue, Aerodrome could definitely be a beneficiary of that. Next, we have Simple AI. AI and decentralized AI has been a very, very hot topic. And of course, AI is everywhere, right? And so I think it's hard to bet against a really, really strong kind of micro cap AI play. I think to me, that is one of the most obvious ones. Next, we have Plume. While RWA has not actually played out too heavily quite yet, at least in my opinion, we have seen some gainers here and there, but RWA as an entire asset class has not really seen much success so far. I think a lot of this is kind of looking toward the future, looking towards more of that institutional adoption. I do still have some level of skepticism that RWA is, most of the gains at least in RWA are going to be held kind of primarily through the institutions that are entering, not by some of these kind of decentralized upstart projects. But of course I could be wrong, and that's why I do want to maintain some exposure there. And then the last one, of course, we do have Game. Game I find quite interesting because again, it is doubling down on that AI narrative, as well as kind of leaving some exposure, in my opinion, to the crypto gaming sector. We saw crypto gaming have a massive run towards the end of 2021. We haven't really seen it come back quite yet, but I do think crypto gaming in some degree does feel kind of inevitable. And so that's another reason why I'm looking at this, is if we see crypto gaming really have kind of that moment and we start to see AI agents getting pushed into crypto games, because of course AI is everywhere, why would we not? And then, I do really think that there's a fair shot we could see game being one of the foundational pieces of that. Now, of course, there's a lot of ifs, there's lots of contingencies, there's a lot of things with all of these, but that's of course how you see some ridiculously major upside gains. So anyway, overall, hopefully you did find the information in this video useful. If you did, of course, a like and a subscribe does help. If you are looking to support the channel, that is the freest way to do so. And then also, if you enjoyed the content, you can hit that notification bell. It will notify you every time I do release any new content, so you can stay up with all things going on within the crypto space, because we do try and keep up with everything that is happening kind of real time. So also, if you have any comments, questions, anything like that, feel free to drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of those. So if you have anything that you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do so. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.